Here we are live again. This is part 2. Marine Corps veteran shares how to claim VA benefits. Of course, I'm the hitman, Hitman, Hakeem, in the morning, afternoon, and night, because I never know when I'm going to be here, morning, afternoon, or night. And I'm here again with Marquis. He's a Marine Corps veteran. And how you doing? How did you feel about that part 1? We had to make it.
Feels really good. I hope a lot of people get some stuff out of that, maybe relate to it. I'm not sure. Again, hopefully just people get some form of information from it at all.
Good. I think that they will, especially once I get this out to Spreaker and whatnot. And hello, Shanika Woodson. Thanks for stopping by and sitting a spell or passing through. And so far, I'll just recap. We went over a little bit of stuff. I found out some interesting terms, like I never heard about a combat hunter before. And learned a little bit about that. Marquis, you started studying sociology before you went into the Marine Corps, is that right?
Yes.
And I learned about some of the different kinds of separation you can get from the military, specifically the Marines. There's MedSep, or medical separation, and ADSEP, or administrative separation. Am I flowing so far correctly?
Those ADSEP and MedSep are throughout all branches.
Okay.
So it's specified in the military, Marine Corps.
Gotcha. And then we got to how you first got labeled or designated with the administrative separation. Unfortunately, you attempted suicide. And when was that? What year? When did that happen?
Oh my, it was a year before, 2019.
Wow.
Say that summer. I just cannot remember the accurate date.
Yeah.
Maybe July or June.
Okay. And then due to that suicide attempt, how did your suicide attempt come to light? Like, what did somebody find you? Did you go reach out to someone? What happened with that?
The situation was very crazy. So at one point I started talking to myself. I started hearing voices. I didn't want my friends to know about it, so I didn't tell many people. I only told about 2 friends. So whenever I was by myself, I would start hearing voices. I would start looking for knives. I would start looking for anything to find. At one point, I just realized, like, I need to leave. I need to get out of here. I can either wait out my contract, just finish up whatever I have, and then get out from there, or a more permanent option, which was what the voices were telling me at the time. At one point, um, I just hit that very bad day. If you ever heard of the Batman killing joke, all it takes is one bad day. Next thing you know, the voices that convinced me to try to cut my artery out.
Wow. So you had what sounds like some pretty serious episodes where you were hearing voices and they were telling you to cut your arteries out.
I cut the artery out of my wrist specifically.
I have to tell you, that is a very specific thing for your voices to be telling you. That's pretty scary.
More hilarious that, like, I actually tried to do it after 3 hours, and, like, the only thing that pretty much allowed me to live was the fact that, like, I missed by a few centimeters.
Wow.
That was it. Like, literally, if I had just hit the right centimeters from the cut, I would have got my artery right out. I would have cut my artery right out.
So, I mean, that, I mean, when you were hearing these these voices, I mean, they were specifically instructing you,
They
um,
told me exactly where to kill myself at. Yeah.
so they told you where on your body, and like they gave you also a location.
Yes. They gave me a location. I I didn't even know I was really doing this. But at the time during my deployment, a African gendarmerie, he had gifted me a knife, an AK-47 bayonet knife. He told me specifically, take down your enemies with this. This is the knife you would use to kill your enemies. And I was like, thank you. I will take this. And I was doing exactly that. Little did he know, or I knew, I was planning on doing that to myself.
So this is part of when you were where you were deployed in Africa, in Senegal.
Yeah.
You got gifted a bayonet knife by one of the gendarmerie,
Yes.
and but he was just gifting it to you. He had no idea that you were hearing voices and they were telling you specifically how to kill yourself.
Yeah, I mean, at the time, especially the time during my deployment, I had not yet the voices yet. But to be honest, through my journals, I started to notice that there were thought patterns that were regular from the ones that I would recognize before the military. And those thought patterns did give me clues that eventually this is going to happen.
Now, Marquise, I've often been critical of um, people hearing voices in mental illness. Like, so hear me out. I'm
Mhm.
not. I say what's on my mind, and one of the things that I've often thought is this, and 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 I don't know what it's like for other people, but I always assumed that, for example, if I were to tell you to kill yourself by cutting out an artery from your arm, there's very little chance that you would listen to me, I think.
There would be very little chance at all I would
So why then would you listen to voices in your head telling you that?
say, know me better than you.
So I mean, did they have like, of course, and they're from you, so they had more insight. Did they talk to you? Did they get under your skin, so to speak, in a psychological level? Were
They,
they?
sh- they showed me the future 10 years from now, 30 years from now, and I didn't like what I saw.
You know, there's some concepts that I have to somewhat understand that, in that I realize psychologically, one of the things that human beings have the ability to do is actually to have premonitions and to predict the future pretty accurately, if we are able to tap into our subconscious minds, because all of the information that we experience and that we record, even though we can only handle some few thousand message units every second, I think it's like 4,000 or something like that every second, and we have to block out most of them or else it would be too overwhelming. We do take in a lot of information, but most of it gets stored in our subconscious or unconscious mind, where we don't have to process it consciously all the time. But if we were able to tap into that, we'd be able to make some pretty accurate predictions based on things that we've done in the past and that we're doing currently in the present. And so, from some conceptual psychological level, Marquise, I can see how that would actually make a little bit of sense. Um,
It's unfortunate because everything that they told me came true.
wow. And
It
so,
was
yeah, well, it got you to that point where you actually did make this attempt. Now, did you use that knife that the gendarme gave you?
I had been sharpening it for months without even realizing it.
Wow, that's
At free time, I would just take my sharpening stone and just sharpen it for a couple of hours.
That's intense. That's intense, and it's especially because when I think about being cut, like being cut or stabbed is like the worst thing ever. To have like your skin open, it really that's one of the things that really bothers me. Like you could drown me, probably even burn me, but man, having cuts is that's a really hardcore thing to do. So
They convinced me it's a necessary surgery.
the voices in your head convinced you it was a necessary surgery.
Cut out the weakness.
Wow. I've heard something similar before. That is really hardcore. So you got to this point, you made this attempt. You said that you missed it by a few centimeters or inches. Well,
Centimeters. I think if I remember correctly, maybe 0.5 or 1. I'm not sure.
and so after this attempt was made, what was the next thing that happened after that? Did somebody find you? Did you present yourself to somebody? How did you get to the situation where you then had to seek help for this?
Actually, the reason why I even well, okay, let me explain right. So no one found me. People were actually trying to find me though. That's the funny part. I had Firewatch at the time. So they're actually looking for me because of the fact that at the time my name popped up on the list for Firewatch, for my barracks.
So Firewatch is like a guard post?
Since I got reports for the barracks building that you reside in usually, that's ran by your company. They create different watches for whichever period of time they have. You like it's based on whether or not you actually live in the barracks or if you're married. It varies a lot.
Okay. Why do they call it Firewatch? I've heard that term before.
It's almost the term of back in the old days, like watching the fire so it doesn't go out.
Ah, okay. I got you. And so they were looking for you because you were supposed to, your name came up on the list for Firewatch, and so people were already just actively looking for you.
Actually, someone even came up to the door. I was in the bathroom, committing the deed, and someone actually came to the door, knocked and everything, and tried to because they didn't know I was in there, know I was in the room, so they just so happened to pretty much interrupt me midway. Like at the time, I had a tourniquet. Like I had made a modified tourniquet out of my shirt to try to drain out the blood, and I was just sitting there, with my teeth just squeezing the blood out while this person is just really knocking, asking who was in the bathroom, and I just did not answer. I was like, well, if they figure out what's happening, I'm over. I'm done. If they don't, well, maybe, hopefully, I can lose consciousness soon.
Wow. And how eventually did they get in?
I kept the door unlocked. They tried the door a few times. They actually broken in through my window to get in my room at all. Because the room and everything was locked, all the lights were turned off. I was trying to do my best to keep my attention away from my room. Unfortunately, due to the people behind Firewatch, they broke into my room. They were able to get through the window and get to the bathroom door. But they eventually just jumped out of the window again and just reported that I wasn't even in my room again. So I just continued cutting from there.
And then, but what I'm trying to get to is then how did you eventually get someone to notice you, to get you to get out of that bathroom and then start this process where had to be evaluated and everything like that?
That point, actually, like 1,000 people were texting me because of that person unable to find me. He had pretty much rang up to the chain of command. He could not find me at all. So my phone, I'll have my phone number was just being blown up, and I knew at that point I just had a matter of minutes before they would just figure out I'm in the bathroom trying to kill myself. And all I could think of was just text my buddy, let him know up to my room, and I didn't tell him what was going on. So he was oblivious. So the moment he came to the door, I dragged him right in, showed him what I was doing, and I told him I needed to go to the hospital beforehand because of the fact that I wasn't the first suicidal ideation or suicidal attempt. they were used to changing the story. You know, whoever got caught. So to catch them before they caught me, I told them to bring me to the Naval Hospital nearby so that I can tell them the story beforehand. Literally, as I was at the hospital getting evaluated, here was my chain of command right behind me, trying to change the story. They got pushed right out.
So what would be their reasoning for trying to change the story? So they try to say that it wasn't a suicide attempt?
They'll always try and say it. They'll do everything and anything in their power to try and say that. Thankfully, though, I had blood and everything to show.
And so then what happened after that? So you go to the hospital, you get treated.
Well, I go to the hospital. I got checked in. I stayed in there for a week. I did not want to stay there any longer. Due to my condition, it was varied on how long I would stay at the hospital due to the fact that I actually had tried to kill myself. Um, Funny enough to me, and the whole time I was there, I was really just coming to terms with the fact that I was still alive. I was just sitting there like wondering to myself, like, wow, am I actually alive or am I in heaven? It's hell. Who knows? Hell might be a hospital. You never know.
Right. Um, for some people, the hospitals are hell. Um, so then after that, you get out of the hospital and you go back to active duty, or what happens?
They could, because of the situation, they had to assign me as light duty, so I was pretty much on pause on any field work or any form of training that would pop up. So anything that involved a rifle, I was pretty much opt out of.
Yeah.
So I was mentally evaluated and checked out to be able to use a rifle again, which I never was because I literally just told him, I was like, if you give me a rifle, I will shoot myself right in the eye, licking me. Give me a rifle, give me a round, I'm shooting myself.
So no fire watch for you.
Now, I do remember at least one. You can still have Firewatch because of the fact that there are tiers to whether or not there is a firearm included in Firewatch. The top tier, which is the officer of the day, he gets a pistol. Every other tier below him does not get a firearm. So Firewatch was not excluded from me.
Okay. And how long after this attempt and then you getting back into light duty did you start this process of um of getting discharged and going through the administrative separation? How did that all happen?
It took quite a while. The therapist he did not he legit believed that like reason why I even tried to kill myself was just to get out of the military, which, to be fair to him, his statement would not be infactual. It would be very factual due to the fact that if I had successfully killed myself, yes, I would have been out of the military.
Yeah.
His was that the entirety of my attempt was just to get out the military entirely, alive, of course, in which I did correct him. I did not expect at all to be alive at all. I did try to kill myself. I
So
was not expecting to live.
so for him to say that, do you think he has justification, meaning are there people who fake suicide attempts to get out of the military?
He has all the justification in the world. I don't blame him. Except my situation. I mean, I had an entire scar and everything to show, so I don't know what to tell him. It's either I'm so crazy I would try to kill myself, or I'm an evil genius and I knew exactly where to cut myself to not die. Which that kind of luck is a snowball chance in hell, to be honest. If there was ever a person who was successfully able to do something like that, I commend them. You worked the system. Congratulations. I went off of luck. I lived. That's the only difference.
And so now after going through this, where you said it took a while after the attempt, and then the therapist saying that, you were just trying to do this to get out of the military, what happens next for you to get into the situation where you're out?
Well, at that point, they would just continuously reevaluate me if my condition did not change, which is very based on whoever is evaluating me at the time. Then they would conduct administrative separation or med sep discretion as far as I'm concerned. Now that may vary depending on who you may get as a therapist. I had an officer, so there was a lot more weight in the area of administration, admin separation and everything. So it varied a lot. With him, it pretty much was like after a certain, like I think at one point it was about 3 months, and I would say like at least a session every other week. So we had gotten to know each other quite well at that point. Actually, after he had pretty much just said you shouldn't be in the military, you shouldn't be in the Marine Corps, he actually took leave. It took vacation for like a month.
So, to be clear for anybody listening, that I know I'm calling this how to, Marine Corps veteran shares how to claim VA benefits. Just in case, because people need to hear things like this, a suicide attempt is not a way to claim VA benefits. Having
It's not at all. It is not a condition. You're suicidal. Being suicidal is a time period. It is not a condition that you can have for the rest of your life. So suicidal, I cannot just get benefits for a suicide attempt.
right.
You actually have to have background and proof and everything. For me, it was proven over time due to colleagues that I lived with and everything.
Right, and so the thing is that you actually needed the benefits because of the way that you felt, your emotional state. You needed to be discharged from the Marine Corps, and you needed help. You need help, which is the real reason why you would claim benefits, is because you actually need it.
So I actually did need it. Actually, lo and behold, I figure out when getting 100% disability that actually you do not just automatically get help. That is still something you have to facilitate for. So that's something I'm actually trying to work to create a foundation for. So something that I don't have to check in on, but something that I've just notified, hey, it's your time to talk to a therapist, or hey, it's your time to talk to a physician, whatnot. So no, you do not get any kind of benefits. You have to prove all of your things. You have to go through the whole entire process. Unfortunately, of course, like I said before, you can't get help. There are different groups in case you cannot fill out all the forms yourself, or you need help filling out the forms. In my situation, almost needed help every step of the way with almost every form I got. It is if you have mental situations where you just cannot fulfill basic information fill outs on paperwork, I heavily suggest you look into VA groups.
So, what I want to examine here is, for any person who is leaving the military, and would want to get their benefits. There are various reasons why people would make a claim to get their benefits. Are some people, for example, when they retire or leave the military, are there just automatic, like just basic benefits that people get from leaving the military?
So that is a very good question. It's based on how you got separated. So if you get a dishonorable discharge, um, without benefits, you still get a plethora of benefits like college education is one of the biggest ones that a lot of people go for. Um, that also translates to trade, so you can also go into trade. There's not many ever benefits after that point if you don't go for disability. Um, Now, if you do go for disability, it's based on how far your percentages. I do not have a listing for those percentages. If you want, I can look up the listing for the percentages based on what disability rating you get if you want me to. I don't mind.
Well, I just want to, because I've heard it's very difficult for some people to get the full benefits when they actually need them, and that's what I really want to clarify, because it's it's a difficult situation to have this temporary condition where you have suicidal ideations and you actually really want to end your life. And of course, that definitely does make you unfit to serve in the military. Um, and also, it can be something that recurs and can cause problems throughout your life with depression and things like that. And so, um, with that, there's a process that you have to go through in order to claim to get your benefits, and that's not an easy process. What was that like for you, and what did you have to do in order to? So we talked about that you went through the process of seeing a therapist every other week, and then this therapist finally coming to the conclusion that, yeah, you do have a real condition. You weren't just doing this to get out of the military. So what happens from there? What do you actually have to do in order to first change the designation that you got of being a narcissist and being put on administrative separation?
At that point, at that point, the moment you get your DD-214s, which is your word telling how you've been discharged, um, wherever you land at, which I mean, wherever you land at, being like wherever you to go live at after the Marine Corps, whatever branch you are, whatever hometown you end up staying at, whoever, um, just get your VA, Veteran Affairs hospital, and just get yourself registered. At that point, explaining the situation for me, it was explaining that I tried to kill myself and everything, um, and that I needed reevaluations. As I showed them I just showed them paperwork. I pretty much gave verification proof that that I was a veteran, that I had gotten out at this time. They set me up with a therapist. My condition, my home conditions, it was a remote therapy, so it was all through the chat. Um, it was a long process due to the fact that this is a person that doesn't know anything about you. That the only thing they have on you is the paperwork that was previously sent from other therapists. So pretty much it was an uphill battle. At one point, though, she did understand what was happening. She gave me some good recommendations for other places. Um, Again, due to my living conditions, I was unable to continue therapy. Um, at the start of 2021, to November, and that was when I was able to contact the Wounded Warriors, um, and be able to set up my claim and everything. That was when I was assigned a therapist to collect evidence on my claim, pretty much rehash everything that happened to the military and everything that happened afterwards, how it was affecting me and everything on that. Was a pretty extensive process. It honestly, there really isn't any skipping around. Um, the biggest thing is, why did you get out? If you got out regularly, you have claims, that might be something you have to do a physical for and a mental evaluation for. If you got out normally and you didn't have any initial claims or injuries, you would just have to do an evaluation and just jot down everything that you did not have pop up during MEPS. MEPS being your medical evaluation before you even got into the military.
Right. Now, what I want to find out is, this process that you had to go through would change your designation from administrative separation to medical separation?
Not changed it. So the separation stays the same. So as of now, I'm still general under all of the conditions. My discharge does not change due to my disability. As far as I'm concerned, I will be checking in on that. If we ever talk again, I'll obviously update you on it.
Okay. And so how similar is something that you went through to somebody, for example, in an extreme case, who was in combat and had a limb uh severely damaged or removed? This person obviously would be eligible for benefits, right?
There's not even a question on it. Like the moment, especially the fact if your deployment is noted as a combat deployment, especially there's almost no reason, especially if you. Here's the thing: if you went into mess with both arms and you got out the military with one arm, I would I would slap the person in the face whoever denied you on your benefits. I would slap them.
So like a so like a person, let's say they did enter with two arms, leave with one or one leg, or even got a spinal injury, like got shot in the back and couldn't walk anymore. These people would most likely receive full medical benefits upon their discharge and be an honorable discharge, right?
I would hope so. It really depends on who is present during that event to give all the details.
Right.
The court witness you being injured in this situation, more than likely you were fine. They will definitely jot down every single detail of what happened to you when having to send you back for medical reasons. Again, if you're in infantry and you're in a combat zone, you end up you lose your leg or you lose your arm. Again, definitely a corpsman will be assigned to, well, not assigned to you, but pretty much will go to you, pretty much have somebody rate you up, a chopper, a bird, as we would normally call it, have them get you and pretty much rearrange everything. Medical wise, you should be fine. They should handle all the medical paperwork for you from that point. Combat deployments are a lot different from people who have not been to combat, myself included. I had not been to combat, so I can't speak too much on that. There are, if you meet a combat vet, they will definitely more than likely happily talk to you about all the ins and outs of proving whether or not you were in a combat zone.
Right. Now, those people who, like I said, had those kind of injuries, like a gunshot or an explosion, that would be considered medical separation, right? Or med sep?
In my understanding, it should.
Yeah.
Yes. In my understanding, yes. Without a doubt, at least in my understanding.
So now in your process, you had to fight, I'll use that term, to get your full benefits. And part of that process, if correct me wherever I'm wrong, part of that process was continuing to gather and collect evidence that you had a real condition that required that not only you be discharged from the military, but also that you would be able to receive benefits afterwards.
I mean, I didn't even, honestly, I didn't even know I would get any benefits when I first started out. I honestly I just took a chance.
Yeah,
Sure if I was going to get anything. Honestly, I wasn't, especially the fact that I wasn't even a combat vet.
right.
I had the impression that I had this in combat if I didn't have a chance, and I was like, whatever, at this point, I've been kicked out, let me try.
Okay. And getting the benefits, how are they helpful to you, afterwards? Does it help you with getting therapy and other things like cost of living and stuff like that? And without them, would life be more difficult for you without having the benefits?
Uh, I don't know how people are gonna feel about this. I'm just gonna be straight with you on it. Um, there are, like I said before, there are no automatic benefits. You don't just get therapy automatically. That is something you do have to set up yourself. The compensation is monetary only. Um, you do obviously get other monetary benefits as like healthcare and life insurance and whatnot. Those things are something again you still have to set up yourself. Um, Living arrangements wise, um, without the disability, honestly, I wouldn't even know I wouldn't be able to continue my life. Honestly, I had been working for like 3 years, different jobs, multiple different jobs almost every year. I couldn't land a single one longer than the military, and it was hilarious at one point. I gave up so many times, and I want to just end it all immediately. To be honest, earlier this year, I was actually planning on getting a gun to kill myself and everything because at this point I was just like, I gave a chance to the disability. When I give a chance to anything, I give it my all. I don't hold back. I only do it if I know for a fact I have a chance, and I did. And friends and family disagreed with me heavily, um, fought against me and everything on it. Um, that's why I actually lost where I was at, to be honest.
Well, I can bring us back on track. So this is interesting because what you said is that the benefits are um
Monetary mostly.
they're monetary mostly, so they don't really guide you or give you a process with which to even direct that monetary compensation to getting the other help, which seems to me kind of strange because if in fact a person has a mental condition, sometimes those things can be very overwhelming emotionally. I mean, I even know from just I burned out this week. For 2 weeks I was just toast. Like right after I met you, um, I didn't even realize it, but I was just working myself like crazy and attempting to get all kinds of stuff done to the point where I look at certain things that I have to do and I go and I pick up my mail from my house, my sister's house and stuff like that. And I look at it and I just look at all these bills and like, cause I drive so much, there's all these tolls that I have to pay and these pictures looking at these photos of pictures of my car license plate. And I just take them and stick them inside of a big envelope and I just leave it sometimes because I'm like, how, like I have to sit down and stop and process all this stuff. And for a person who's dealing with a mental illness and they're just throwing money at you, what do you do with that? I mean, that's, if there's no direction or guidance, I mean, there's nothing else. Like nobody says, hey, we're going to pair you up with a counselor or a liaison of some kind that's going to help walk you through this whole process.
Okay, so it is actually, my goodness, navigating the VA in the beginning is a maze. It's a maze. Honestly, we've actually talked about it previously in part one. Number is actually the best number to actually get set up. If you talk to a person long enough, they will get you a suicide coordinator or a crisis coordinator, pretty much. It's a person who can help you navigate the VA. They will help you on anything. The best idea I can give anybody is if you're first time using it, try your best to see if the crisis coordinator that you get is someone agreeable with you, somebody that you could create trade contacts with, so that if any situation pops up with the VA, you can contact them. They will get you the right numbers. They will tell you what to press, everything. They will tell you everything you need to know to coordinate the maze of the VA. That
So,
is a quick way to get in and get your stuff handled.
so this, oh, you mentioned the 988 number. So these resources are at 988. You can also get somebody, a crisis coordinator, to help you with the VA.
Yes, after your
Okay.
discussion, they will recommend if you want to have your number transferred to a crisis coordinator so they can touch bases with you later on. Um, it's obviously your own choice, but I would heavily recommend saying yes to it, whether or not you are no longer in crisis, because it is just a great, it's just a great advocate for your time in the VA, trying to get all your stuff handled. Even if it's like for a small period of time, just getting that point in the right direction does wonders for you.
Okay, so this is important information. I didn't know this. So the number, because the suicide hotline or crisis number 988, I see it all the time on LinkedIn and other places as being presented for the general public, which it is available for. But you're saying also that they have special resources that will help military veterans be able to navigate through the Veterans Affairs
Yes,
department. Okay.
every level. on every level. They will tell you, like, it will tell you the number that you need to call, depending on your location. I mean, that would be something that they would have to communicate with the VA themselves. But more than likely, they will, again, I'm not sure the specifics, but pretty much they will pretty much locate whatever suicide coordinator they can within your state, and then they will work it through from there. At that point, the specifics is something between you and the coordinator.
As far as you know, Marquis, are there people at this, because this is slightly different, but for those people that I mentioned earlier, the the fictional, I guess, examples, but which are not fictional because it happens to people where they lose limbs or become crippled, not able to walk, or other things like that. Are there, as far as you know, are there resources at 988 that would help them with that as well, because of the fact that they do have information for the Veterans Affairs Department?
Unfortunately, and I have to say this with a heavy heart, 988 number does not help any of your claims. It does not provide the claim system, the medical system are strictly separated. They're strictly separated unless a claim has been initiated, in which a certain period of time information can be fed to the claims department for them to make the decision. Your 98 number does not provide anything other than maybe if you had a rep from a group or take note of how many times you may have called. I'm not sure. That would be something between you and whatever rep you made to help you with your VA claim.
So okay, so you said with a heavy heart means, you know, this is kind of disagreeable to you that, um and I can see that. I mean, it makes sense on a level that 988 was set up specifically for people with suicidal ideation and are having an emotional crisis. So that's separate from those medical, they don't have information where they'd be able to help somebody who lost a limb or was crippled or something like that.
They would not. They would only be able to provide what the VA has to offer. It does not help them with the claim. Like
Right.
if they say if they have put in a claim about their lost limb, they cannot help you, but they can at the very least get you a suicide coordinator that might be able to help you with your situation.
Right.
If you, that's the only fortunate. They're only coordinators. They're not people who record your situation and
Right.
provide information for you.
So for people who need to, and like, I mean, we discussed this earlier, but the people who have those type of medical disabilities, a lot of times, do you think that process is streamlined for them? Because like I was mentioning earlier, my sister, she, served for 20 years, and I know that there were some difficulties with her and her process of getting out and everything like that. So I know it wasn't easy for her, but for some people who, because there's a lot of disabilities that I'm sure you heard the term, like, invisible disability, where it doesn't show, like you're not mangled, you're not maimed, so it doesn't look like you're disabled, but it's possible.
Under that category. To be fair, I fall under that category because my whole situation is mental.
And
Would not be
also,
able to.
yeah, and also people who might have chronic back pain or like frozen shoulder or different things that happen, um like shortness of breath, bronchitis, different pulmonary things from breathing in chemicals from fires that were over, these burn pits and things like that, that you can't necessarily see, but they definitely are disabilities and medical disabilities. If a person is diagnosed with those things, and then also, like I said, with the loss of limbs and other abilities, those things that are more visible, do you think that the process is more streamlined for them to get um, their benefits claims from the Veterans Affairs?
Say definitely. I would honestly, but what doctor would say no if they can see visible signs?
Right.
It's just hard to think of. Because in those situations, again, obviously, it goes back to MEPS. If they did not find anything like that on you before, and afterwards, when you get out and you register with the VA and get your evaluations or whatever you need, and they see that you have clear things that popped up, that were not previously on MEPS, it would be streamlined at that point. At least in my opinion, I still believe I do understand. At least in my opinion, I understand that a student still has to put the claim in.
Yeah.
You just still put the claim in. You yourself need to still operate the claim. The appointments, the operations, everything that is after you've successfully like put in a claim for your disability. So at that point, the process becomes a lot easier. I would say a rep is always a great idea because they cover things that you just don't, handle, and they will give you any form of information that you need on that end. There are a lot of veterans who represent themselves if they understand the situation the best. Again, that is something that they can decide on their own. Again, I can only imagine situations you might be in where you may not need a rep at all.
Um why do you think it's so difficult for veterans who do have these problems, not in your situation, because what I'm going to get at eventually is what resources there might be for people to get help getting their benefits claims, but why do you think there's such a barrier to people claiming their benefits when they might need them? Like what's the what's the point in all that? Why is it so difficult?
It's the wait time and the verification. Like, it's the wait time and verifying that everything you said is actually true to begin with. Because my rep even told me there are many veterans who are like clearly unable to work.
Yeah.
The reps just have to tell them, hey, you're just gonna have to work until we get the claim through, because there's just no way around it. If they stall the wall, you will not get over this. You have to go through the
So
process.
it's bureaucracy, red tape, basically.
Yes, yes. Surrender.
And that's insane. And so what
It's
kind
understandable, but it's
yeah. No, it is understandable that of course you have to, collect evidence, present proof, verify. I get that. What I'm trying to figure out is why there are not, so if somebody comes out, they're discharged, they need help, why is there not somebody who, and I know you don't have all the answers, I'm just, speaking out loud, just pondering, why wouldn't, I mean, somebody be assigned to a person who's leaving to say, hey, like for example, you go to school, you get an academic counselor or somebody who walks you through the process of getting signed up for school, and that you can call when like an admissions counselor, or even, when you're leaving, you know, uh, your undergraduate studies, you have somebody that helps you go through getting into your doctorate or your advanced degrees and things like that. I wonder, in the military, is there anybody, or why isn't there someone who would help a person leaving the military who's served, like my sister, for example, she served 20 years, right? Why is there not somebody assigned to veterans to say, hey, we're going to help you out while you're being discharged, to help either evaluate and determine what benefits you can or cannot get, or to get them through the system? Is there anything like that?
See, that is unfortunately a multi-layered question, and every layer I have to say the heavy heart. I will hit the first tier, those who may or may not have any claims to put in at all. The first tier is pretty much processing out. You have to take classes. I do not remember exactly what class's name. I may remember at one point during conversation, but pretty much you have to take civilian classes, like integration classes on like how to set up getting a job interview, what to do, what to put in your resume, whatnot. These classes are meant to pretty much help you integrate back into regular society.
Okay.
That would be your guidance. They do cover benefits, only very lightly. They do not cover like many groups. They let you know that there are groups that will help you get your claims through and everything, but they won't just like, they won't get your paperwork and get you started up and walk you through the steps. They're not going to do that. Unfortunately, you're on your own, and it's based obviously on whatever area you're from. So if you're from like Ohio, you're gonna have to figure out like what veteran groups are in Ohio that don't mind helping with claims, and particularly to your situation, because who knows, there might be different groups for different types of claims. Like maybe there's a better group for physical claims, maybe there's a better group for mental claims. You don't know. That's something you have to unfortunately research on your own. Now, when you get out, whether or not you do have a claim, like I said before, get yourself an evaluation at the VA, physical or mental evaluation, whichever you need. At that point, your guidance is whatever you can trust. And like I said before, at that point, during your transition classes, whatever groups they know for you to be able to contact, I would suggest jotting as many as you can down and see whichever ones work within your area, contacting them and getting set up for like a first time evaluation just to see what your rating might be, because they will rate you um prior to the VA rating you to see what you might fall into. This is a statistic, this is an estimate, this is not an accurate representation of what the VA might get you, but it's an estimate.
Yeah. Now, you did mention earlier, I remember when we first were talking before we went live the first time, you said something like, I'm paraphrasing you, but that you would like to help people lean towards wounded warriors. You said, yeah, you said if you can get people to lean towards wounded warriors, great. So what did you mean by that, and how did wounded warriors help you out?
Warriors pretty much helped me out with a lot of my paperwork situations because I didn't have a printer to print out the paperwork to send to them. Like I had a lot of paperwork I had to fill out, and a lot of it was sent through email, so I had to try and print it out. Thankfully, through some apps and MacGyvering a bit, I was able to get my paperwork filled out without printing it whatsoever. This is something you're going to have to figure out on your own. Hopefully, your rep has a solution already for you to handle. Me and my rep had to kind of work through it together.
And when you say you're a rep, you mean a rep at Wounded Warrior?
Yes, my rep is a different one.
Okay.
Is the one who handling my claim. Yes.
Okay.
She was pretty much monitoring everything, and all the paperwork I finished, I sent back to her. Any paperwork that needed to be assigned to me to continue my claim at whatever stage, she sent it to me to fill out. These are things that groups will do. At the very least, I can say definitively the Wounded Warriors will do. They will send you everything you need. They will not send you anything unnecessary.
Okay. And you think that this Wounded Warriors, is this a good resource for people with all kinds of claims, disabilities, and things like that? You think that they're a very helpful organization?
So actually, I would say they're well rounded. I wouldn't say they do better in any particular area, but I would just say they're well rounded. It's something I would say every veteran should at the very least inquire about. You don't obviously if there's a better group and you know it, do them first. But if you have a chance and the time, check out the Wounded Warriors website. See if they have a reference number for you to work with to contact them. All you need is proof that you are a wounded veteran. I thankfully had a picture of my wrist at the time of like a week after I got out of the hospital. So I had a picture to show them of my attempt and everything, and then I explained my situation from there on, and they were able to accept me from that. Those criteria were fine enough for them to accept me. It's something based on your situation. But more than likely, if there is a Wounded Warriors nearby and you were able to get their number and contact them, whatever proof you have provided, that's all I can say. Really.
Do you know of anybody else that was helped by Wounded Warriors personally that was a situation different from yours being a mental health condition? Do you know of other people who've been helped by Wounded Warriors who had other situations that they were helped with?
Especially, I do not. All of my examples are mental health conditions.
Yeah.
I unfortunately never knew any Marines well enough who had physical conditions. I did know some Marines who had physical conditions, but they had been med seps, so they were a whole different ball game. Especially with physical conditions that are very noticeable. There was a guy who fell out of a helicopter because the helicopter operator was just not good at his job, and unfortunately severely damaged his spine. He got med subs.
And MedSep, again, that's medical separation, right?
It's medical separation, so that includes your benefits. So during your separation, they will give you a rating as you get out, but that's only for medical
Wait, give you a
separation.
what?
It will give you a rating
Oh,
and
rating.
everything.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yes, give you a disability rating, so like 90, 80, or 100, whichever one you fall under. I do believe that my buddy got 100. I hope he did because spinal injuries. I smack a man in the face if he tells me spinal injuries anything less than 100.
And when you say 100 rating, does that also correspond with 100% benefits?
Yes, obviously. Any 100% when you hear veterans benefits, anything like that, we hear 100%, we mean 100%. That's just that. There are other I'm only recently finding it out. This is specific situations. So let's say I have 100% rating because I'm just that messed up. But I'm so messed up that like my missing arm is only one of the many things that I have wrong with me. Because my disability rating is already at 100, I have so many more things wrong with me. I do qualify, and unfortunately, I do not remember the correct acronym for this. I actually have to do some intensive deep diving for this information again. Um, but you do get, if I remember correctly, the SSCT, which is pretty much a amputee limb or any form of appendage. You will get more money on top of your disability. So if you're getting 100%, depending on what injuries you have that are more extensive than 100%, you will get an extra lump sum on top of it on an annual basis. Like, as far as I'm concerned, it goes from $200 to like $700. I mean, $7,000 extra from your original VA benefit, which that does not include the amount that you get from the VA benefit. So if you're getting 3,600, if you're an amputee who already has like 100%, and it extends further than that, and you sign for SET, or I'm not sure. I know the Army is pretty much the easiest way to figure this out. Um, if you have any limbs like that, then you do get an extra amount of money from 200 to 7,000.
Yeah.
If it's not sure, I haven't done that much extensive research. If there's anyone who does know about it, they would have to look into it. Unfortunately, I wish I did more research on this. I've only recently figured this out.
So, I'm getting some text messages. I'm just finding out if I can read and say this. But I got a message that said, from my sister. She said they don't want to pay, and she says that that's why. And I'm sure she's responding to something that we were saying. She said that's why it's a lot of money every month to pay, and there's a lot of people who fake being sick.
I can only imagine.
Yeah, and then
I see so many like literal like uh people get caught for lying on their VA disabilities and everything, and they have to pay back all the money.
wow. Well, I mean, they should if they're faking it.
There's
That's
not even a question on that.
that's not cool because that actually makes it more difficult for people who actually need the benefits to get them when the system is being so um, so saturated with all these fake claims. She also said there is a departure person and process that helps with retirement or medical discharge. Well, because she's retirement, which is a little bit different, but also, when you reach the 20 years or so when you're eligible for retirement. I don't know how different that is, but she says there is a departure person / process that helps with retirement or medical discharge. And then something to what you just said, she said there's a monthly amount for removed vital organ or limb or eye. So there's also different things she was saying there too.
So the whole entire like 100 and you still get extra thing.
Yeah,
Like you said, those are for very specific areas. Those are for like you said, organs or entities, like
yeah,
any limbs or body parts removed.
yeah. She said that she's got both medical retirement and medical benefits.
She's doing great. She's doing great.
Well, I'm sure that from some of the things that I know, I'm pretty sure that she wishes that she didn't have to have some of the medical stuff. But yeah, she's doing all right. I mean, dealing with
I told back in the day, I told him if I didn't have to suffer to get extra money for just me, I wouldn't do it.
right.
Because again, like if I have to suffer through so much to just get an allotment for my living, then I'd rather not do it. Because again, like what's the point of getting all this money if I'm unhappy? Like what if I'm like, if I lost both my arms or my legs, or if I suffer from traumatic hallucinations over and over again of the same events, rewinding itself over again. Actually, that's kind of what I went through a bit. But if I went through all that, is it really worth the money? Is it really worth all of this? Like, would I not just turn around and run away? Why not?
It's interesting that you say that because I think that part of the process is on the right track when you mentioned that there are some transition classes, right, where they teach you how to reintegrate into civilian society and things like that, which when you were saying that, it just made me think of people who go to prison and how sometimes, for example, I was watching a movie last night called Desperation Road, and the one of the lead characters, he went into a bar and he ordered a shot, and he sat at the bar and he started looking at all these people. They were laughing and having a good time and whatever, and he just left um the bar, like kind of hyperventilating, just overwhelmed from like all the sounds and sights of being back in civilian life. And so, um, I can imagine being in the military, you're isolated, like you said before, you basically have no rights. You only have the rights that they give you. And then you have to basically work back to be a human again. Um, so I think that in part of it is like the right track that they have transition classes and things like that. My sister said that she writes, it took forever to get benefits. So it took a long time, like you were saying earlier, that the time that it takes and the process is long. And that's one of the things that kind of holds people back. And she says it's not worth the benefits. She's like, I would not join the military again, for the benefits. Yeah. And
It's like, oh, honestly, if I had to go through all that again, I would. Honestly, I would
yeah.
have just stayed in college and I would have just went about my business from there.
Yeah. She says, and yes, they have to reintegrate us back into civilization. They brainwash us, so we have to be retrained.
No cussing. That's one of the biggest ones. No cussing during interviews. That's a huge one. For months, like myself, for 0311s, it's a lot more expensive because of the fact that we are warfare. A warfare job, we're based on the idea of whether or not for my pop-ups, our whole entire job is based on killing. Um, so we have to have a tad bit of a more stricter reintegration. It's nothing too crazy. It's just a reminder, like you can't put on your resume kill people.
Right.
You can't put on your resume I slay bodies.
or you can't or when you get back into society you can't shoot somebody because of road rage. You can't you,
Nope, I don't care what grandma's doing in front of you. She can live.
no no improvised explosive devices on the guy who turned you down for your new job.
Which lets you.
Um Yeah, she said, my sister wrote again. She says she went through that leaving Iraq. Yeah, she did a lot of stuff, which really, when I started thinking about it, it's freaking crazy. Like she did, so one cool thing she did was she worked at the '96 Olympics in Alaska, if I'm correct. If I'm not correct, sis, correct me on that. But I believe she did security, or she had a job where she worked in the Olympics in '96. Um,
This
she,
is I don't know.
oh yeah, she at one point in time had to do like salvage with like plane crash and like cleaning bodies and plane parts out of the water. Um, she had to deal with checking in the Olympics for if there were going to be bombs on the buses and shit like that. Um, yeah, she picked up bodies off Flight 800. I remember that because it was like big news at the time, and she was talking about that. I was like, "What the fuck?" Like picking up like limbs and bodies and airplane parts out of the water and shit. Um,
The mental toll she had to deal with on a regular basis.
there was she worked doing detainee operations. Like I still have I keep her badge, her Master at Arms badge. Like I uh like just insane stuff in the Navy. Like in I don't know, man. I'm actually it's actually fortunate that when I was going through MEPS in the beginning, I started getting there was a whole bunch of stuff happened at one time. And like I mentioned earlier, I was in ROTC in high school, and I went to a mini boot camp for a week in Orlando where it was a joint Marine Navy base, which closed down, I think, the same time she graduated from there. Um, and and be shortly after that, I got recruited by the Marines, and I had went to there was a Broward Community College. They had a criminal justice institute, and I went to like this obstacle course and this other training and took some tests. And I had all these police departments calling me and wanting to hire me. Um, and I scored really high in the ASVAB, and they wanted to put me in communications and intelligence. But fortunately, I told them that I was in. Even though the Marine Corps recruiter told me not to mention it, she basically told me to commit a lie of omission. She said not to tell them that I had gotten checked into a mental health institution when I was 15 years old in California. But I told them, and fortunately, I didn't join the Marines or the police because at the time, my mental condition, I would have been happy killing people, I think, at the time. I'm actually pretty glad that I went off and lived a bohemian lifestyle of traveling all over the place and playing music like a troubadour. It was a much better path for me to take.
That's, honestly, if that's what you want, that's I support it. Sure. I mean, again, it's just not a life for everybody, and again, you might dislike me because of it, because I did join infantry just simply because of that. I did want to kill people.
Yeah, I mean that's it.
Only within reason, of course.
With
So
in
that
the job because they tell you that you're fighting an enemy, right? That it's the whole.
I had so many because there's a lot of mental evaluations that pop up. I've had a lot of people ask me. The funniest thing to have in the mental evaluation when you're coming back from deployment is, are there anyone you're trying to harm or hurt? Only the people you're telling me to kill. That's pretty much my answer to that. Like, only the people you're telling me to kill.
I'm saying this to my sister. What happens in Iraq stays in Iraq.
Okay.
She wrote. She wrote me. She's another message. She says she worked with stuff I can't talk about in Iraq with detainees. So I can only imagine. Um, yeah, this has been pretty informative. I mean, I learned a lot of stuff, and I want to. track back to a few things, which is just you say that the Wounded Warriors is a good resource for people. That you said they're pretty well rounded um, in in uh, in helping people with getting the paperwork done and things like that, whether it be for mental or medical and otherwise. Right? Is that correct to say?
Yes, they can help you for generally anything as far as I'm concerned. Working at it. Yeah.
Yeah. And if you don't mind, I wanna actually look at the I'm gonna pull them up here, the lyrics to that song that I wrote a while ago. I actually performed it at the fourth annual Zeitgeist Media Festival. I forget what year that was. Um, but tell me what you think about these lyrics and how close it is, because like I said, there were other veterans and people, army. There was an army general and other people who said that the lyrics were pretty spot on. He said how would you write that? He's like, who did you talk to? Why is it that it seems like you were in? So do you mind if I read those to you?
Go ahead, man.
Right. The lyrics, it's called Killing Machine or Always Faithful, which is a play on, what you guys say in the Marines, right? Semper Fi, Semper
Yeah, it
Fidelis.
does.
Um, so the lyrics says, Uncle Sam said that he would pay for school if I enlist. All I have to do is go overseas and take out the enemies on his list. And so I am separated from myself, separated from who I really am. They paint this picture of a war and say enemy combatants like it's us against them. But I still pick up my sniper rifle and my flak jacket because I'm ready to ship out. And if the world needs a reminder, they're going to get it because the Corps is going to show them what it's about. Because I'm a killing machine. Every morning I arose to a scorching sun and hot blazing sands, and all my brothers in the Corps seem to think that we've arrived in a God-forsaken land. Well, maybe that's because our smart bombs are killing families, there's so much blood on our hands. And some seem to believe that we are the new terrorist regime because it comes from the chain of command. But I still do it because I'm a killing machine. I've never stood alone out on the battlefield, though sometimes I wish it was a bad dream. I know it is surreal. I'm a killing machine. So now I'm back stateside trying to get a little rest and some peace. Yeah, right. 'Cause even though my body's home, my mind and soul are stuck out in the Middle East. And my psychiatrist tells me that I'm suffering from something they call PTSD, but I insist right now, as I always will, that there ain't nothing wrong with me. 'Cause don't you remember it was I who signed those papers and I did so voluntarily? So even though the Corps has honed my skills, I really believe that I always was and I always will be just a killing machine.
Personally, I would call myself a death machine, but that's a good one. That's really good. It articulates everything that anybody would ever have to deal with from the one. At the very least, on that end of the military.
Yeah, this is man, there's so much. Yeah. Well, I'll share with you the song sometimes. Like I said, I recorded it. I don't know, maybe I was channeling something. Maybe I was channeling. My sister and I are very connected. We have like something you'd probably call like a psychic connection. Sometimes she refers to us as the Wonder Twins. Um, even though we're about a year and 4 months apart. Um, but I don't know. It just something that I started playing the guitar and that came out. But so
But when we first met, you're doing good. Some good stuff. I actually would like to hear the instruments with that.
yeah, I'll send it to you. I'm doing all right. I burned out the past couple weeks. Starting last week, I drove back in from where I met you in the Richmond area, down to Virginia Beach to get my car serviced, and it was at that time that I realized that I was fucked up. I was I don't know how I was just going so long. I was just going. when I looked at my time, I was working 20 hours a day and sleeping like 2. And then the other 2 hours was me putting gas in my car and eating.
Those days before I joined up in the military.
Yeah, it's pretty nuts. But not to bring this back on me, I just wanted to share that song. But Marquis, before we wrap this part 2 up, is there anything else that you'd like to share? I mean, we went over a lot of stuff here, and 2 great resources that I want to reiterate. I don't know anything much about Wounded Warriors, but you said that's a great resource for everybody, and at 988, the suicide crisis hotline is a good resource specifically for veterans with, well, they do have resources there for people and can direct and help veterans with mental conditions.
Again, the 988 number is for, I would say, anything.
Yeah. Right.
Let's say you have no legs, you want to just talk about challenges of having no legs. Guess what? The 988 number is for you. And again, if you have a hard time coordinating the VA, the Veteran Affairs hospital, or anything like that, again, 988 number, they will assign you a suicide coordinator or a crisis line coordinator. They will help you pretty much coordinate anything you need in the vet system. That is something that they will try to assign you at the end of the call.
Yeah. And overall, in general, I mean, both my sister and you had said that you wouldn't join the military again, no matter what the benefits were, because the pain and suffering is not really worth it. Do you have any closing comments or parting thoughts for anybody thinking about joining the military, or no comment, or anything for anybody that is currently in or thinking about joining the military? I mean, I don't want to be somebody who's here saying don't join, because there's all kinds of reasons. I mean, our country is what it is for various reasons, but what would you have to say about any of that? About
Um, I I don't want to elongate an outro, but I will explain how I feel about that. If you are thinking about joining the military, think very carefully of who you are talking to. Ask, just try your best to Google, outsource every bit of information the recruiter is telling you, so that you know whatever they are telling you is accurate 100% of the time. There should not be a small difference in what they are telling you and what you can Google. If there is, you need to immediately present this to your recruiter. No ifs, ands, or buts. For those who are already in the military or have already left the military, I can only hope these words truly hit you. There is only one road for the warrior, and it is the road forward.
I want to add, my sister also said, she texted me that 988 will help and direct you to what you need, and that there's another number people should know. It's 838-255. So 838-255 is the text for the veteran hotline. So 838-255 is a text for veteran hotline. And again, 988 will help direct you to what you need. So, and then
Thank you very much for providing this. Thank you.
and yeah, and Wounded Warrior was the other resources. I'm going to put all of this into the show notes when I transfer this stuff to my Spreaker podcast for some reason. And I love you, Wisdom, but I was not planning on doing this over here. But for some reason, Spreaker gave me these error messages that would not let me record when Marquis and I first started to go on there. So, well, though, there's what it is. On Spreaker, I'm going to put this under my podcast over there on Spreaker called Wisdom Top Mentor Interviews. I have several podcasts over there. You can always find the Spreaker podcast under UniquilibriuM, which is my handle here on Wisdom and everywhere on the internet. So you can, if you type in UniquilibriuM, you'll find me on Facebook, Instagram, and all the other stuff, which I don't really interact on. I just publish stuff on them for the most part. But these resources will be there. I'll make sure that they're in the show notes in detail right at the beginning so people see 988. That can help direct you to what you need. That 838-255 is a text for the Veterans Hotline. And Wounded Warrior is also a good, well-rounded resource, as Marquis has also shared with us. So with that, Marquis, I appreciate you. This was part 2 of Marine Corps Veteran Shares How to Claim VA Benefits. I know that there was a lot of information in there. And of course, Marquis is the Marine Corps veteran that we're talking to here. My sister, 20 years, she was in the Navy. I appreciate all her contributions in sending me these messages here. She retired from the Navy after 20 years, left straight out of high school. Yeah, this has been really eye-opening and very, very informative. So, Marquis, again, I appreciate you.
Appreciate the chance to be on it all. Thank you.
Yeah, man. So let's recap after this, and everybody on Wisdom, thanks. I appreciate Guru Warrior, the Right Warrior. Hey, there's a lot of warriors here today. Guru Warrior, the Right Warrior, Abigail Barton, Daryl with the Dashes. Thanks for stopping by again. I know you were doing a show. Reggie Woodson, I know you were on a little bit earlier too. Lois Hampson, Coach Norm, Mike Wright, and Shanika Woodson, and of course my sister Natasha. Thanks for all either stopping by and sitting a spell or passing through. Again, this is part 2 of Marine Corps Veteran Shares How to Claim VA Benefits. Until next time.